Alright, hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel after a very long time. I'm Utkarsh and this is the Ministry of Guitar, and this is the PRS NF3. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got this guitar, what's special about it, and why, as the title of the video suggests, this is the second best secret in the second best kept secret in the guitar world, with number one, of course, being the PRS 513. So the NF3 is a model that PRS ran for a few years in the late, I think about 2010 to 2012, 13-ish. This particular guitar is a 2011. And what made it unusual was a couple of things. Most notably, of course, are these pickups, which are called narrow field pickups. These are humbuckers that are typically thinner than a regular humbucker. And on top of that, the other thing that makes it unique, and of course these humbuckers are now used all over the place in PRS. And the other thing that made it unique was these were not on a typical PRS body. This is on a Strat-like body. In fact, the body of the new Silver Sky is very similar. And lastly, this was a bolt-on. Quick story about how I got this guitar. I actually got this guitar while on holiday in Italy, which is less glamorous than it sounds because it was really warm. I got this from a shop in Genoa and called Red House Music, if I remember correctly. The whole story is documented on the PRS forum, which I'll give a link to in the description. It was quite a coincidence, but I was very happy to get this. Okay, so with that, excuse me, there's a bit of a cough going on. Not the thing that you might think it is. Let's get a bit into the specs. So this particular guitar, starting off with towards the headstock, this is of course a 6-string maple fretboard and maple neck. This has got the typical PRS tuners. These are phase 2 locking tuners, not phase 3, because phase 3 would have open back, but these are locking tuners nonetheless, as you typically have on PRS. It's got the nice NF3 on the truss rod. Following that, you have a 22 fret 25 and a quarter scale neck. The reason why this is 25 and a quarter scale is that this is getting closer to a Strat scale compared to a PRS that has about 25. This is the same scale length as the 513, the best kept secret, as we just talked about. This has got a pattern regular neck, which is, I would say it's the Goldilocks neck. Nobody can dislike this neck. You like big Gibson necks, this is smaller, but it's still very nice. You like shreddy Ibanez necks, it's bigger, but it's still very nice. And because this has this very interesting finish, this was the time when PRS were doing, I believe, the V12 finish. It's like bare wood, but it's not bare wood because the finish is kind of inside the wood. So it's really nice. If you read around, you will hear, and I think correctly so, that the PRS pattern regular neck, especially in a bare maple kind of a, not unfinished, but lightly finished maple, is one of the best. It's not exactly like satin. You know how cheap satin can feel sometimes? This feels extremely expensive. And this will be one of the themes. Though this is not the most expensive new guitar that PRS made, I would say it's its own thing, and it's probably as good as any guitar that they make. So moving on to the rest of it, this is a Corina body, not mahogany, not alder like the Strat over there. This is a Corina body, so that gives it a very unique flavor in terms of sound. In fact, I really like the sound of this guitar, which we'll talk about. And then we did talk about the bolt-on construction. PRS bolt-on construction is very interesting. This one, again, if I was to compare, this reminds me a little bit about the 513 as well, because it's got a very similar looking heel, except that's a set neck. This is the bolt-on. Corina body has a nice little belly cut for people with bellies, I guess. Then you have a white pickguard in this particular one. This guitar came with an option of rosewood fretboard or a maple fretboard, birds or dots, as are the case. So these are the non-typical PRS. And pickguard varied on the color. So you could get a white one with a black pickguard. You can get a black one with a black pickguard or a white pickguard. This one has white. 3 narrow field humbuckers. 5-way switch with the usual. So position 1, bridge, position 2, bridge plus middle, position 3, middle, position 4, neck plus middle, position 5, neck. The typical master volume and master tone. Pretty straightforward, and of course the typical PRS tremolo, which is extremely nice. 6 screws, pretty standard, what you'd get on a typical custom. This is the full USA model. This is not a S2. This is not an SE. S2 is a stripped down USA version. SE is the made in now it's made in Indonesia, but back in the day it used to be made in Korea. This is regular made in Maryland, full fat PRS, though it has a bolt-on neck. So that's enough about the specs. So now what makes this guitar very interesting? It's the sound of the guitar and the playability. I think playability is really driven by the neck. But the sound of the guitar is very, very good. I'm going to switch off the reverb here because it is supposed to, it's a Strat, as I've heard it described. It's the Strat for non-Strat guys, which kind of describes me as well. I'm not really a Strat guy. It's not as bright as a Strat. It's extremely focused sound, and yet it's its own thing in a very good way, and it makes it extremely versatile. So you can play everything from Sultans of Swing to Master of Puppets, which is the contrast that I was giving because that's something I jammed with it the other day with my band, and I play both those songs very badly. But that gives you a sense of the range of the guitar. So what we'll do now is we'll hear some sounds, and you can just get a sense of how it sounds. I'm also going to play the Strat after this just to give you a bit of an indication. You will get this. The Strat is an E flat. This is an E, but you'll still get indication of how much brighter the Strat is. All right, neck pickup. Let's remove all effects. So this is just a light Marshall-y kind of. It's a neck pickup, yet it's extremely clear. You can put it's very sensitive to volume. Reduce the volume a little bit, gets very chimey. And this is very, very touch sensitive. So I find this guitar extremely responsive. The volume and the gain varies a lot based on your touch. We're just going to move on to like position 4. Very nice, usable indeed. Middle position 3, just the middle humbucker. So again, you get to the same thing of the volume knob being extremely sensitive. Then you have the position 2, which is middle and bridge. I don't know if you can hear some of those overtones. So this guitar has overtones in spades, which is, there are a few guitars that I have played, and honestly the Strat is not like that, even though that's a very nice Strat. So we'll talk about what that is in a second. But this gives you these beautiful overtones for days while you have a very bright sound. So it's just something else. I don't know if it's a neck, it's the wood, it's the pickups. It's just its own thing. And finally, bridge. So just to give you a sense of the range of this thing, I'm just going to put it into a kind of a clean channel, give it a bit of compression, a little bit of nice. So you get this beautiful neck pickup sound. So let's put it in the position 4. It's quite nice, right? Obviously, I'm not going to get trademarked, right? But it's quite nice. I made that on purpose, though I can't play it. It's quite nice. It's very, very. You can get that very, very bright sound. But on the other hand, if you want to go all the way to the other end, get some nice little. Hopefully, this doesn't get any copyright strikes. But you can get all of the typical, very, very good chord clarity through gain. On the other hand, when the mood strikes you, you can just go all the way to the other end. Apologies, the volume on that was a bit out of sorts. I particularly like the slightly Gilmour-ish tones you can get on this, because this particular guitar, Gilmour fattens up his single coil a fair bit. If you think about it, right? He adds the compression, he adds the fuzz and everything. This one is kind of pre-EQ'd for you. So for me, this guitar is pretty good for those Gilmour-ish high delay tones, because it's very, very focused, unlike some humbucker guitars that can get lost in the delay. So that's what makes it a little bit special. Yeah. Overall, I'm very, very happy with this guitar. It sounds very different. It sounds like its own thing. It's got this beautiful resonance that makes it feel extremely expensive and like an extremely high quality instrument. These were not the most expensive guitars when they were new. They're much cheaper than a regular core PRS, and even today, they are cheaper to buy than a regular core PRS of the same age. So for me, that makes this outstanding value. And I would liken this a little bit to, like, if you're familiar with cars, this is almost a little bit like a BMW M3 or an M5, but with the premise being that it looks like just a regular car, like a taxi, or in this particular case, just like a black Strat, which is about the most common kind of guitar you see everywhere. But it is super versatile. You can play anything you want on it, and it attracts no attention, even though it's a PRS. I mean, the really eagle-eyed person in the audience will notice that, hey, it doesn't have a Fender headstock, it has this PRS headstock. There's something about this guitar, but most people will think, hey, it's just a black Strat-looking thing, and then it'll blow your mind with the beautiful sounds that it has. Okay, let's do a little bit of A-B with a... Not really an A-B because I'm not editing this, but let's do a bit of a side-by-side with a Strat. So let me just play some. I'm just going to play bar chords so we can stick to the same chords over there, right? So that was basically in A minor on the neck pickup. So let's try it on the Strat just to give you a sense of it. And I'm also going to play the same thing on in the position 4. One can only hope it's in tune. Not really. That's another advantage of a PRS. Immediately you can tell that the Strat is a lot more quieter. It's got a jangle. So So it's not, it's the NF3 sounds nothing like a Strat, and it's even brighter in the position 4. So I would say the Strat, of course, lends itself a lot more to that kind of percussive work. Even I am playing naturally that. NF3 is not a Strat. It can get bright, but honestly, even the 513 in a single coil mode is brighter. Just to illustrate how much brighter a 513 is in single coil mode, I'll bring out a 513. And then you will be able to understand that, hey, a 513 kind of gets you some of those Strat tones, but the NF3 doesn't. It just gets its own thing. Oops, that was not intended. Alrighty, this is another interesting guitar. This is a 513 Rosewood 2005. Beautiful. And because it's a PRS, it's in tune. Of course it is. So the 513 is also quite bright. And the position 4. And just for reference, we're going to go back to the NF3. There you go. See, it's even driving the amp a little bit more. And position 4. But you know what? If you're buying this expecting it to sound like a Strat, this is not the guitar to buy. This is a guitar to buy if you want a guitar that cuts through the mix, sounds extremely good, is extremely receptive to all kind of sounds, and can get you through a gig. I mean, it'll in a live situation it'll do the job. You can EQ the thing out of it, but the whole intent over here is not to perfectly replicate a Strat or a Les Paul sound. It's to sound good, especially in the context of a mix, especially in a live situation when sometimes you struggle to be heard in the context of a full band, or a recording situation where you want a good bass on which to create the perfect guitar sound. That's where this guitar just excels. And the simplicity of it, bolt-on neck, just 5-way switch, relatively affordable compared to other PRSs, yet with as high a quality as you would expect, and the unbelievable playability. That's what makes this guitar what it is. And there's a reason why these are suddenly going up in value in the used market, and they're developing a reputation. They just are something. You know, I've been a little bit torn since I got this guitar, because I'm like, this is by far the cheapest chord PRS I have, and it's really, really good. And so, you know, for me, I was almost thinking as if, okay, if I really had to, if I've got a chance to go on a tour in not perfect circumstances, and I'd be really scared to take out you know, really expensive PRS, and they look fancy as well, I would just take this. This can sound like anything pretty much. Not perfectly like them as I showed you, but good enough. It's great for stage because humbuckers means no hum. It looks like just a plain old black Strat, nothing fancy. No one's gonna steal it. No one's gonna be jealous of it, and yet it'll play like $1 million. And ultimately, isn't playing well and looking. I mean, and playing well and sounding good. Isn't that what guitars are about? Okay, I hope this was helpful. I'll be covering more of my guitars soon enough. Hopefully, I'll get some more time. In the meantime, all the best, and I'm going to continue playing this.